the customs man's trousers with a smack and shot him into the ditch at the side of the road. And before he'd even begun to pick himself up, the animals had galloped off into the night. I'm just guessing that some of us who drove up from the U.S. yesterday had a similar experience. Many years ago, or many years later, in Flying Saucer Plans, Freddy and Jinx are planning a riding adventure, but they can't quite agree on a destination. Freddy, and this is quoting from the book, Freddy had argued for Cape Cod, where he could get some sea bathing. But Jinx, although he could swim well enough, didn't enjoy the water much, voted for Canada. He wanted to visit Montreal and Quebec, where he could hear people speak French. I want to see if they really understand each other when they make those queer sounds, he said. Personally, I think it's just double talk. I've heard it talked on the radio, but nobody can make me believe that stuff means anything. You and I could get up and I could say, Alaki Pigglebob Foozle, and you could nod your head and say, Mealy Tufer Conduspation, and we could say we were talking Sanskrit and everybody'd believe us. That's what I think French do when there are no foreigners around. When they're alone, they probably talk just as good English as we do. Okay, so much for feline political correctness. Jeb, can we do slide number 1? I had an idea looking at some of the Brooks illustrations recently that it might be fun, and this is kind of a test run for what we might do next year, to have a little bit of a caption contest with the New Yorker style. So when Jeb gets this one enlarged, just look at that slide for a second and come up with a, just the first thing out of your mouth. Give it a funny caption.
What? We can't have a loan?
Okay, more?
I brought my collateral with me. It's weekly.
Anybody else?
This little one will fry up nicely. Perfect roasting size.
Couple more. Anybody? Okay. Well, what we're going to do here is I have some extremely small prizes, and I'm going to say the first one that really made me laugh best. Sorry, Connie, I like your third one best actually, but the first one that really made me laugh was Dave. There are limits to the sort of gifts one can bring across the border and not have bulging in the suitcase, so there are little tiny things this time. And there'll be plenty more of these contests, many more opportunities to win. Okay, so the idea there with this slide up, and you can go back to the other one now, the logo, was to introduce the idea that before each of our presentations, there'll be something like that up there. We'll take a minute, we'll try and come up with a caption, and that'll help introduce the next subject. So the idea in this instance was to transition us to business. This is the quick business portion of the meeting. Our treasurer reports that as of the end of September, we had $34,938.86 in the First Animal Bank.
U.S.
U.S., yes. We have about 275 members, if I recall correctly. Since our last convention in October 2016, we've accomplished a number of things. We've distributed 225 Freddy paperbacks donated by our friends at Overlook to more than 100 free libraries in 15 states. Arizona, California, Colorado, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Montana, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, Texas, Utah, and Virginia, plus Canada. We've coordinated a series of individual donations used to buy more than 50 Freddy hardcovers for distribution in school classrooms and libraries in Southern California, and that's a program kicked off by a member who simply wanted to share the joy she gets out of Freddy books, and she sent us a check, which the number was matched. We were able to get Broadway Video, the owners of the merchandising and performance rights to Freddy, to respond, finally, to inquiries about a potential licensing arrangement, and in the end, they said no before terms were even discussed, and what that means is anybody's guess. But meanwhile, we're exploring other avenues to bring some new life into our pig. At the request of our Overlook contacts, we've established a Twitter presence, Real Freddy the Pig. Interestingly, there was already a Freddy the Pig page put together by somebody who tweets only occasionally on behalf of his pet guinea pig, which may or may not even still be alive from the looks of it. Our Twitter feed doesn't do politics. We don't seek global attention at obscene hours, and we do adhere to the code of behavior set up, I think, by Kevin from the mail list, which is be nice. Our tweets are pretty much pithy quotes from the books or pictures of some of you, thank you all for doing it, putting books in little free libraries. Our other digital media which is the Yahoo group, our Facebook page, and our own website, have often featured similar material. And last night, Alice and Jeb helped put together some more material for all that, which is great. We've tried to make hay with some celebrity connections. So Clint Eastwood, I talked about last night, he told GQ a decade or so he loved the Freddy books as a kid. I've tried sending a couple letters to the addresses we have for him, and they have been roundly rejected, as I suspect they will be. Nonetheless, we try. Clint was a guest star on the Mr. Ed TV series, a weird little Freddy connection here. And that, of course, was based on short stories by Walter Brooks. There's a Mr. Ed page on Facebook, and I've posted about us on that page, hoping that readers open to talking animals other than just Wilbur Post's friend might find us. Don't know if they will. We've talked intermittently about raising a statue to our pig, but that remains just talk. Peter Mayer at Overlook had suggested we might consider Washington, D.C. as a site for a statue, given that Brooks lived there for a period, and Freddy occasionally visited as well. Sorry?
Wrote the first book there.
There you go, okay. Amazingly, I found there's already a pig statue in our area at a car dealership in Falls Church, Virginia, which apparently was originally the family pig farm before it was converted to a car dealership. And it's a pretty magnificent statue. 3 pigs at a trough and a farmer putting stuff in the trough right there on the corner in downtown Falls Church. The folks in Roxbury, by the way, where many of the Freddy books were written, would love to have a Freddy statue. I was there last fall, I guess, and the people at the library would be interested. But bottom line is that I've talked to a number of sculptors, and they don't want to return calls unless you're willing to spend about 5 figures or more. So that may be a difficult one to pull off. There might be alternatives. We might be able to do hoof prints or something like that. Or I was looking the other day at pig-shaped weather vanes. Don't know where we put it. Nonetheless, it's out there. Last spring, I talked to executive committee members about ways we might spend our acorns. And it was clear that some of the items that were on the list had little to no support, so they really haven't been pursued. Not to say they can't come up again. They might even come up this afternoon when we're talking about ideas. One was establishing scholarships for studies of children's literature. Another was maybe contributing toward funding research into pig-human relationships. There's a couple of ideas that kind of went down in flames with the first round. They may do that forever. That's okay. There's a lot of other good ideas we can talk about. Meanwhile, I sent a survey to the non-executive committee members of the organization about what would be the single most important thing we could do to increase attendance at conventions. And I was floored by the response. The response was, hold it in California. Almost a quarter of our members live in California, which is kind of mind-boggling. And we all think of this as Friends of Freddy. It's not. It's a lot of it out there. The last meeting in California was, what, 2011?
Yeah.
Is that right? And so we're going to do one in 2019 in Fresno, where at the R. Nixon Center on the Cal State campus in Fresno, which is where Michael Cart donated Walter Brooks' papers a few years ago. Michael will be able to give us access to all that, and from what I understand, it's a wonderful facility for a gathering, and I'm looking forward to it. Hope you all are too.
2011,
Yeah. Let's see, what else? Before that, of course, we have our usual even-numbered convention, most likely in New York State, but yesterday in the hallway there was some conversation about maybe we don't even have to adhere to that border, so we'll see. Let's talk about that this afternoon, because there are a number of things that have come up, as I've heard from folks, that might dictate where we want to be and when. Still, I've been mostly focusing on the Catskills and the Finger Lakes as I research things. And my guess is that's where we'll end up. It usually is, but let's talk about it. One thing I'd like to hope it will not happen when we hold that meeting a year from now or so is a musical chairs exercise where it's the same people just sort of rotating offices. I'd love to hope that more people get involved, and if you're not already involved on a regular basis in Friends of Freddy activity and you'd like to be, come see any of us and let's take advantage of that.
We'll brace you with open trotters, yes.
Yeah. The dozen or so people who helped on the Little Free Library distributions demonstrated a lot of interest and reliability. Many of them have never been to a convention and aren't likely to get to one until we get out west. So I kind of hope that there'll be some new blood. This afternoon, when we do talk, about 4 o'clock or so, we've got kind of an open planning session. Love to hope we can focus on how we might increase member involvement and what sort of roles we might want to do to help ensure our own future. Maybe we need a publicity director. It's been something that's been talked about. Maybe even a membership recruiter, a digital media expert, or a poet laureate. We've been around for 30 years now. Longer than 30 years, actually. And that's long enough, and some of us are getting old enough, that it dawned on me it might be appropriate to have somebody be our group's historian. It took me way too long to figure out that the obvious person to enlist was our secretary, Connie Arnold, who already does the best job of memorializing our gatherings and has for many years, and I'm pleased to announce that she graciously accepted. She did make it clear, though, that she's like most of us Freddy fans, which is to say she's not comfortable enough necessarily with a computer to take on the digital aspect of things. Fortunately, Kevin Parker has always been pretty much our go-to guy for things like that. He's the go-to guy for a lot of things for us. He was the first friend of Freddy I ever met. And when I joined the group that was when I joined the group back in 2001 or so. He's done pretty much everything over the years and held every title. How do you recognize such huge contributions? Well, I'd like to hope you do it by presenting him with something that I hope is in his bag. There we go. Also hope it survived the trip. This is the Uncle Ben Atomic... Kevin, come on up. This is the Uncle Ben Atomic Station Wagon Award. And it is presented for Kevin's boundless energy and technological know-how. I hope somebody's getting a really good picture of this.
We're going to be shaking hands here.
Got it, David? Good.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks, Kevin.
And it looks like it will do double duty as a Christmas ornament.
I think so. Oh, actually, Kevin, the atomic symbol on the top, in the event that you need more of them, there was a whole sheet that came out.
Wow.
There you go.
If something goes wrong, we're ready. Okay.
Anyway, that's about it from me. For now, I'll pop back up from time to time with the cartoon caption contest and some other things, and then we'll do the planning session this afternoon. I'm looking forward to those discussions, and I'm sure that our future will benefit from them. And in the meantime, one last thing. Actually, it's because this is a State of the Barnyard address, I should say thank you, and may God bless the First Animal Republic.